Okay. So for every data preparation step you take, you have to always, the first thing you do is you inspect the data to understand the data sets that you're having. Okay.
Mm.
Understand the data set you're having, then you know the steps, the necessary steps that you have to take. So we know for now the data has been formatted as table, but usually that is what's supposed to be done when you are going to work with a data set in Power Query. You have to always, assuming that this data set was not formatted as table and it was in its raw state, you have to format it as table. Okay, so you highlight the entire range of the data set and you have the format as table option here. You select this and then you select any formatting you want to give to the data set. After doing that, you go to table design and then give the table an appropriate name. So that is what. So this data is you can assign any company name to this. So we say this is an EMP data. Okay, so we just say employee data. So EMP data. So we've assigned a name. So because when we go to Power Query, to identify the data. So how do we access Power Query then? Okay. In Excel, to access Power Query, you go to data, then you locate from table or range. Currently, you can see that we have highlighted the range that the dataset is in. Okay. So
Mm.
we just click on from table or range and Power Query will identify the data we want to work with. So you can see we have our EMP data here. Now, if you notice something, what Power Query didn't do is that it did not select the name, the spreadsheet. Okay, so you can see this is the spreadsheet name, plain what Messi employee data practice 1. It did not identify that. So what it means is that Power Query ignores the empty cells here because if it identifies it, it will assign nows to all these spaces. You get that? And there's no data
Mm.
set in here. That is the reason why when you are sending data to Power Query, you have to specify the range that you want that your data is in. Okay, so it has selected the exact data set that is sitting, the exact data set or data table that is sitting in the worksheet. Okay, so that is it. So
Okay.
you select the first column header, Control A to highlight the entire range, and you go to from table or range. You can see Power Query will ignore all the other empty spaces and just pick the table that we need. Okay. Now the data set that I sent to you, okay, you will see table 1 in there. Please delete it when you're working on it. I mean, I was doing some work here and then I deleted it, but I don't know why. It's still storing the query for that table 1, so just delete it. It wouldn't do anything. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now we are here. We're expected to clean the data. So first of all, we need to inspect the data to know what to clean. You can see that over here. Sorry, Power Query doesn't allow zooming, so please manage it for me. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, good. Now we can see that the start date is a bit is messy, right?
Mm.
We can see the start date is messy. We have full-time and then part-time workers also here. This is the full-time part-time column, and we have some empty cells here as well. As Power Query has assigned a null for it. And then let's see. Okay, so we have the states and the country values combined, which we have to also split. Okay. Now we are going to start with this FTE column. Okay. We are expected to. The rule is that for every one we see, okay, every one value we see in the column, we're expected to assign full-time worker, so full-time to that value, and anything
Mm.
else that is less than one should be assigned part-time. Okay. Now
Okay.
we have two ways of doing this. One way is to right click on the column header and then navigate to replace values. Okay, and
Mm.
we have replace values, and then we specify the value Power Query is supposed to find, and then we specify the value that we want that value to be replaced with. Okay. Now the
Mm.
problem here is that we can't do same for the values that are less than 1. The reason is we have different types of decimals here. Okay. But they are saying that
Mm.
anything less than 1 should be assigned what? Part-time work.
Mm.
It's just that the decimals, okay, determines the level of part-time worker you are. Okay, the type of part-time worker you are. Okay. But then the data cleaning says that categorize all of them as what? Part-time workers. Okay, good.
Mm.
Now it means that we would have to do this.
Mm.
So if we want to do the value replacement one by one, what will happen is we'll specify 0.2 replace with part-time, specify 0.3 replace with part-time, and that
Mm.
would mean that we'd have to do this one by one, and that is not a very good technique to use when you are cleaning this type of column. Okay, so what is the best way
Okay.
to do this? We select the FTE column, then we navigate to add column. Okay, now when do
Mm.
we use the add column and when do we use the transform column? The add column is when you want to create a new column in your data set. The transform
Okay.
column means that I want to maintain my existing column, but then I want to apply some transformations to it. Okay. So if you have in mind that you
Okay.
want to create a new column, then you use the add column option. Now note, when you use transform column and yet you want to maintain your old column, transform column will get rid of your old column. So please keep in mind, if you want to keep it, then you use the add column. But this time around, I'm
Okay.
using the add column because I do not. I want to use the conditional column option under the add column. Okay, transform doesn't have that.
Mm.
You get it. So that is why I'm using the add column. Okay, and also
Okay.
when I'm done cleaning the data, I'll actually get rid of this column. So I don't really need it. So I'm going to click on conditional column. Now when I select conditional column, this pop-up would appear. This dialog box. And when this appears, it says what add a conditional column that is computed from the other columns of values. Okay, now you can see we have column name
Mm.
here. This says if, then when you click on the drop down arrow, what happens is we get a list of columns that appears from our data set that we need to select, that we want to use for a transformation. Okay, now I want the FTE column. That is what I need. I'll
Mm.
say if FTE equals 1, then my output should be full-time. Else, every other thing should be part-time. Then I can specify my name here too, my column name here. I'll call this full-time or part-time. So now we have our full-time, part-time column. Okay, and you can see
Mm.
anywhere there is 0.7, there's a part-time, 1 full-time, 1 full-time, 0.8 part-time. So this helps us to do it one time. Okay, and then when we are done, we need to specify the data type of the column. Okay, the data type of the values within the column. Now this is a text, so we need to click on. You can see currently it doesn't know the data type yet, so it has assigned alphanumeric
Mm.
to it. So we click on this and then we specify the data type to be text. Okay. And we are done. The next thing is we want to make sure we fix the start date because it's messy. You get that?